It is well, let me it's I there's several different things I want to say. It is well, let me it's there's several different things I want to say. It is well, there's several different things I want to say. It is well,
Ladies and gentlemen, there's Pete. Mesdames and messieurs, welcome back to Friend or Fed, the show that makes you question your priors. This episode, we have two of my closest and dearest friends in this space, Mr. Matthew Erickson at The Real King Pilled, and Mr. Pete R. Quinones of the Pete Quinones Show. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good to be here, man. Looking forward to this.
Thanks for the invitation, Jason.
My pleasure as always. This is actually going to be a bit of a relook into Peter Thiel. We had a Peter Thiel Friend or Fed. I've moved it over into the membership-only portal because I am a money-grabbing capitalist bastard. For $2, you can sign up and get access to that. That episode, I spoke mostly about, at the time, this is when Peter was funding Masters, Vance, and a few other political agents in the Senate and in Congress. So it was more looking at that and looking at speculations about his political aims and interests. It was before I really had dug down any deeper into Thiel, and of course this was before Matt did his groundbreaking analysis into the PayPal Mafia that aired on Pete's show, amongst other places. So I thought it was apropos to get these two gentlemen on to talk about Peter Thiel, especially after his latest Rogan appearance. So we're going to be playing a few clips from there and discussing and then getting more into the meat and potatoes of what we think Peter is up to. So this can be a one-stop shop for people to understand what we mean when we talk about Peter Thiel. A few disclaimers. I'm not on the payroll, okay? If you'd have to understand my financial reality to understand how not on the payroll I am. Like, trust me, I wish I was on the payroll. I make prayers to be on the payroll. Like, I'm sending off flares. I don't know how I have to fucking talk to get on the payroll. I would love to be on the payroll right now because I'm financially FUCK'd. But that all being said, just because we're talking about Peter Thiel doesn't mean, I guess we're trying to get this out of people's heads. Your heart and your head want to do two different things, man. And we're just trying to tell you how things are. Like him or love him. Yeah, he's gay. He's this, he's that. Yeah, sure. Yep, you're right. 100%. Good. Don't care. No, I don't care. Whatever, right? Don't follow him. Don't pay attention. But if I'm telling you it's going to start raining and I suggest you wear an umbrella, you might want to listen because our track record on telling you how these things work are pretty damn good. So the show's about questioning your priors, folks. So let's question some priors. Matthew, actually, Pete, let's start with you, and then we'll get to Matthew because I know Matt can speak a little bit at length on this one.
Just where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I enjoyed more his trigonometry recent appearance. Rogan, I mean, who knew that Rogan was going to bring up like who built the pyramids and things like that? Like he never does that with anybody, right?
Psychedelics.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he didn't ask him about machine elves. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I think he did the best he could in the situation. It wasn't, that's not the kind of person, I asked my wife, I said, if you had 3.5 hours with Peter Thiel, what questions would you ask him? And she's like, none of these. He's like, no, it'd be totally different than this. Um, Going off of, I mean, he seems to be doing the rounds lately. Going off the trigonometry episode, I think he's on a philosophy tour. He's trying to get his philosophy and his thoughts out there. And, from what I've heard in the background, he's not really dishing out money, and he may not be telling people where to put their money, the people who are spending money now. He may be, he may not. But he seems like he wants out of the limelight for that kind of stuff. I think the blow up with Trump, the problem with Trump, I don't think that was something that was faked. And yeah, I don't know. I look at someone like him who, is, let's face it, he's a catty faggot, and he's not going to want to, he's not going to be the first one to say sorry kind of person. So, I don't know. I just, listening to the philosophy, everything he's talking about, I think it's funny that like all these articles are being written about him by people who have, the same letter on starts their name, their first and their last name. And basically every interview he gives where he gets to talk about philosophy, he just counter signals any of those messages about how he wants to create a panopticon with Palantir and all these things like that. So I think there's a lot of people who don't give him an honest look, and I can understand not giving him an honest look. It's fine, but I think there's a lot of people in this space who just want to make money and draw traffic by saying that he's, Palantir is going to be this panopticon where they're going to be watching our every move. They can hear everything we say. They can hear everything we say. They can track us wherever we go. So it's like, I mean, how much more of a panopticon do they need at this point?
Matthew.
I'm about 2 hours through. It's a 3.5 hour conversation. I'm about 2 hours through re-listening to it, and Rogan is irritating me even more now than he did the first time. You can tell how many times Thiel. Well, okay, let me back up first. The fact that Thiel did this interview, period, is data. The fact that not only did he do this interview, but he didn't come here like reluctantly. I remember watching the Rogan talking to Robert Downey Jr., and you could tell that this was like, publicist booked this interview for me. I'm going to show up and I'm just going to kind of talk about some stuff. No, like Thiel, I get the sense that Thiel probably reached out to Rogan to be on the show. And Rogan's like, sure, I'm happy to have you here, and I'm going to hammer you with some questions. Thiel had something to say. And in typical Thiel fashion, you're not going to get the message just like blared to you with a neon sign unless you know where to look, unless you know how to listen to Thiel. And if you know how to listen to Thiel, then this episode, the I guess like the metadata of the interview was sending a very, very clear message. He's a Straussian. He doesn't say things just straight up very often. And I think it kind of drives people crazy when they listen to him, and he's constantly steel manning the other side. He makes it very difficult to triangulate exactly what he thinks or believes or wants. For the most part, this is like a feature, not a bug. He's doing this intentionally to veil himself and be able to kind of fly under the radar while still being actually an incredibly activist, very clearly motivated actor. So there was multiple times throughout the conversation where Joe just completely diverted off on some rabbit trail. Like one of them just a second ago, what was it? It was it escaped my mind. I was going to try to remember it. He just kind of, it's the Nobel Peace Prize thing. They're talking about Gates, which is something Thiel brings it up and says, what do you think was going on with Gates and Epstein? Thiel's the one who brought that conversation up. And And then they're talking about it. He's drilling down into, this was an expose. This is him revealing information as a theory. Hey, I had this theory that maybe there was things were maybe actually like this. This is him saying this is what was actually happening. And then Rogan just goes veering off talking about Nobel, the story behind the Nobel Peace Prize. And Thiel's kind of like, yeah, okay. So, all right, trivia hour, that's cool. Or can we get back to the actual conversation? So this happened many times throughout the episode. And then I remember at the very end, basically the last half hour of the episode, Thiel was just starting to get warmed up. And he's getting into China and talking about AI and all that. And Rogan was the one who was trying to rap at that point. So I think from the outset, the frame of this conversation was that Thiel was here to deliver a message in a very Thielian way.
Yeah, I remember talking to almost right after I'd finished watching it the first time. And some of my big takeaways was that exactly that. It was that Thiel never speaks directly about things. It's always layered. The other big thing was that he was leading the conversation from the very beginning. And I think that's actually part of the reason why Rogan almost got into a rivalry with him, because Rogan's usually used to being the guy who directs the conversation. It's his show. It's like he's going to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. But Pete kept just like, sorry, I should say Peter so we don't confuse the two. Just kind of like jujitsuing him back into whatever he wanted to talk about. Like you mentioned with the Bill Gates thing, it was Peter Thiel who brought up Bill Gates. Like it was like, oh yeah, and by the way, Bill Gates, what's up with that? You know, what's up with his marriage and this whole theory about how this thing works.
And he knew that there was no prenup. He knew that they were married in 1994. Like he rattled off some details that are like, okay, these aren't things that you would have just kind of just gleaned from scrolling Twitter or something. You know, this is information that he sought out.
Yeah, it's like there's water cooler talk, and then there's like, you know, intel being discussed. I mean, the same thing with the AI stuff.
What was that the point of it? Is it putting out intel? Is it a way, you know, someone like Peter Thiel has to assume that everything he says privately on the phone anywhere is being recorded, is this his way of communicating with, you know, his fellow elites, that he, you know, this is one of the people we need to go after. Here's some information. Contact me further for different things. You know, it's funny that we're talking about this because I just did my Substack this morning was on privacy and how we just don't have privacy anymore. And so don't say anything anywhere, you know, unless you leave your phones and you walk into the woods with your buddies. Don't say anything anywhere that you don't want other people to hear, because other people are always listening. So it's an interesting thought that he's actually on there communicating to other people and letting them know that, this is one of our ops. This is somebody that we have to concentrate on once Trump gets elected, and, you know, our guys are in there.
And I think it was also there's a key drumbeat with Peter Thiel for 20 plus years, maybe even 40 years now, in his commentary in the public, is the problem of our lack of competency and the innovating in the world of bits and not atoms. These are riffs, as he calls them, that he's gone on time and time and time again. And there was a consistent drumbeat through the whole conversation here about essentially like our problem is a lack of competence. So if you're going to get spun out diving down rabbit holes after these super grand Machiavellian, super evil, transparently evil schemes, you're kind of missing the plot a little bit. There's a banality of evil thing here where, like, he makes the point with Gates that Gates is, you could look at this as Gates is some uber super villain who's he's taking over the entire world and directing all these massive industries and stuff to impose this particular thing that he has a financial interest in. You could look at it that way. And there's an element in which that's true, but it's also true that this is his way of controlling his financial relationship with his soon-to-be ex-wife. And that the competency crisis is so bad that it's even gotten to, he brings it up with MK Ultra. He's like, I don't think the CIA is doing MK Ultra type stuff anymore, because MK Ultra and everything affiliated with that was all done by very competent people who were motivated and funded by heads of industry who were themselves very competent people. now the competency crisis has hit the regime itself. So if you're looking at this regime as some sort of majestic, super sophisticated, totalitarian demon, well, you're kind of missing the point a little bit. It's actually much worse than that. It's a regime that acts like that and thinks it's that, but it's grossly incompetent. And that competence is both a feature and a bug from our perspective as well. Because this was a pro-Trump appearance. This was him coming out and endorsing Trump's platform, endorsing all of the things that Trump and Vance are describing as the most important things. This is Peter Thiel. He's not going to come out and say, I have decided I'm going to vote for Trump. This was him saying the necessity of Trump's election.
Yeah, what was the competency crisis hitting the deep state? It's like, even if there are still highly competent agents and movers inside of that thing, they're probably getting painted into a corner. Because, okay, let's take something like MK Ultra. Okay, so you need competent people to run the program in the first place, to come up with these things and to execute the program itself. But you also need a highly competent system to shield them from view, and not just blurt out on a hot mic. Oh, by the way, when we were doing that thing over in Nicaragua, like, that's the concern now, is that the corruption and the competency has gotten to the point that they can't even trust their own system of not revealing themselves or dropping the ball or making them look like an asshole. So they're probably just like, going even deeper underground, probably here in Western Australia. I'm in the eye of the storm, folks, in many ways. That's why I don't talk about certain things. But yeah, I think we detailed this many times. Go watch the PayPal Mafia Friend or Fed for us talking about it as well. There is that the bitter white pill here is that the tech bros, their whole world runs on competency. That's their capital. They need it. They can't do any of the things they want. They can't send skyscrapers to Mars with incompetent people, and not just incompetent people, but incompetent systems and regimes and global politics and all the rest of it. It's a non-starter. So it's not just a money thing or a slight little problem that needs to be fixing. It's an existential problem for these guys. Like, their main reason why they get up in the morning and do things, and all their future plans hinges on getting more competent people in that regime. So here we are. Just off topic a little bit. Did you see that Tulsi Gabbard just jumped on the Trump train?
Mm-hmm.
And coalition's forming. It's more and more so, more and more obviously. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was I read on the Astrolabe this morning a tweet from Aristophanes, who said that there was a leading report tweet said, breaking news, RFK has announced that there's going to be more Democrats who are joining this unity ticket that they're calling it. And he said there's going to be a lot of people who counter signal this, but basically this is part of maintaining of acquiring a ruling mandate. You have to be able to build a broad coalition, and you have to be able to cater to the moderates, the sort of centrist, lukewarm squishes who are decent people who want things to just kind of run the right way, but they're bred in the blue worldview, so they are they're very blue pilled, but they're also sincere, honest people, and those people will appeal to a wide swath of Americans, and it pigeonholes the radical ideological progressives who the Dems are actually really planting their stake with. It forces them and isolates them in the corner. So just from a strategic political move, again, this is a campaign. You got to, when you're campaigning, you have to campaign as a political campaign would. And you can govern however you want later on, and we can play some little role in keeping the pressure on them to actually govern according to their campaign promises. But first and foremost, they have to campaign. So things like RFK and Tulsi and whatever future Democrats, I think there'll probably be some kind of surprising Democrat names that end up jumping on board. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Even
Brett Weinstein,
right, yeah. Even like
Rogan people.
I don't think Elizabeth Warren is gonna come out hard on anything yet, but I played a clip of her getting berated on CNBC. Even the mainstream press is turning on her about price controls, and she just looked like she was tired of it. She's just like her heart was not in it. She did not seem like she was having a good time whatsoever. She was just kind of trying to throw some slop out. So I think there's going to be probably some more defections, and there'll probably be some surprising names that come with it. They're a little off topic.
I think one of the interesting things that's happening right now is the people who are going to be never Trump until the end. What happens to them when Trump gets elected? What do they do? Like immediately say the Project 2025 is real, and in the first 10 days, 10,000 jobs are cut. What do these people do? Do they hop back on? Do they hop back on the train? Do they want see? Because I'm like one of those people. I'm not letting them back. I'm not letting them on.
Mm-mm.
The way I'm looking at it is, I don't trust it because I don't think I don't think these aren't people who have my best interests at heart. I'm only looking at it as how can it benefit me, and in that way, it's not like I'm riding the center. It's like I'm like, all right, I'm in this for my own interests, just like they're in it for their own interests. And I think that's a whole lot more honest than the tech bros want to build Panopticon because Palantir, because Peter Thiel, because this, that, and it's like, okay, well, they get in there and they make our lives a little bit easier. What do you get? Where do you go with this? Now you have to go all the way down the rabbit hole of being against a regime that seems to be like it may, in fact, be interested in working for the American people and trying to improve things, and maybe even like right now is becoming even bipartisan. So now you've gone so far down the rabbit hole of being a black-pilled piece of shit that you come out on the other side where you have to ride that all the way to the end. And politicians doing that, content creators doing that, there's so many people doing that now.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot who say Trump wins. Either nothing that he ever does is ever going to be good enough. It's going to be just a relentless push. He deports 5 million. Well, he didn't deport 10. He deports 10. He didn't deport 20. Either that, or they're going to try to drop it and pivot immediately and go, let's let bygones be bygones. And no, you've revealed yourself to be a snake, because the calculus here is pretty simple. All of our lives will be much harder under another Democrat presidency than they will be under whatever the Trump presidency looks like. It could be as watered down and milquetoast and ineffectual as possible, and it's still going to be better than whatever absolute insanity is unleashed on us under another Democrat administration. So the calculus here is extremely simple. I want the next 4 years to be better than I want. There's two options. There's a really bad option and then a different option. And I want the different option. I'll take the mystery box over the plainly obvious, most degenerate, worst direction of an administration in history.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that you see is that there are people who want to have a say in the administration, want to have a say in what Trump is doing, who Trump has around him, who haven't earned it.
Yes.
I mean, what have they done to earn it? They're never going to be, some of these people are never going to be okay with the tech bros taking over because, that one's a Jew. I mean, they're never gonna be okay with that. So what do they just become Democrats? I always talk about this. It's like I think about the podcaster in El Salvador when it was the murder capital of the world. And then Bukele comes up and he's like, Bukele's not going to do anything. He ran in far left. He's kissed the wall. His wife is half Sephardic Jew. No, Bukele's not going to do anything. Bukele cleans everything up. No, this is all a plot to let the Jews in. Bukele does this. Oh, no, this person, that's what they have. That's what the continuous message that they have to go with. They can never back off of it because no one wants to admit that they were wrong. That's the great thing about me. I've admitted I was wrong so many fucking times that I'm like, if I'm wrong about this, I'm wrong about this. I'm sorry. I said that they'd get rid of walls before I thought they were going to get rid of walls before the convention, that they'd swap them out with somebody else. I was wrong. Okay, sue me. Fuck.
I thought there was going to be a rival ticket to Kamala that was going to come out during the convention. I was wrong, but part of this is something I got from Scott Adams. It's a mixed bag when you're getting something from Scott Adams. But one of the good
some
things,
of it's gold, and some of Scott is gold, and some of it is just
the worst goal imaginable. Yeah, he said he intentionally makes predictions because it's a way of having skin in the game, and when he gets a prediction wrong, then he can be held to account for it, and it shows that he's honest. So that's part of the reason why I'll go out of my way now to make predictions, even if they're going to wind up being wrong. If they're wrong, okay, well, then I'll admit that they were wrong, and you know that I'm being honest with you. I'm not feeding you shit, and then I can also put some pressure on me to hone my own observations to make sure that I'm not just getting every single prediction wrong.
See, I make a lot of predictions, but all my predictions are right. So, it's you could step up to the big leagues there, Matty. Just saying. Okay.
See okay, real quick.
Good.
Logo lifter, not dooming, but I wish we could swap out JD for RFK. JD is poison. The RFK is environmental on the environmental front. RFK is like the worst thing imaginable in terms of his what he would want for the environment. Second Amendment, terrible. Israel, not great at all. All of
terrible.
These, they're like, how do you come to this possible conclusion that you think JD Vance is poison, but RFK would not? They're completely separate roles as well. JD Vance's job is not there for electability. Like, he's not a net negative. And he has some positive traits for electability. He is there because the VP plays a significant role in personnel for the executive branch, and because he is the front for a tremendous amount of money and political capital that's coming to support Trump. That's what JD brings. You don't have JD there, you don't get that. So the individual men themselves are less significant than the actual things that they represent. But then furthermore, how could you go down a list of things that you and JD and like, what's my opinion on this? What's his opinion on this? Do that with RFK. You're going to get orders of magnitude more alignment with JD Vance than you do with RFK.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah,
but save it. Save it. We'll do a JD Vance friend or fed, maybe next month. So, because as we're getting into the end game here, folks, where I think we'll start picking the pace up on this particular show. Sorry, Pete, go ahead.
I mean, I would rather have a VP whose wife is an Indian than a Hollywood shitlib. I mean,
although I will say that the story about him sawing off dead whales' heads to collect their souls with a chainsaw, that's incredibly based. Okay, we give him that one. That one's all right. And then driving down the freeway with a whale head, a disembodied whale head on your car, slopping whale juice in it on you and your daughter, and you have to wear like plastic bags with mouth holes on it. That whole image, I like. I got a little hard. I got a little bit of a respect boner. Like, okay, I see you.
Yeah, and plus, JD Vance was the pick that we said back in January and February that if he was the pick, that was the signal. It was a signal that it wasn't going to be run by the neocons. That it wasn't going to be
a signal. It was a signal that it's going to be run more or less, kind of, a little bit, partly anyways, by Peter Thiel, because all roads lead back to Peter Thiel. Okay. Before we get into the clips and stuff of that, let me just play a little bit of an ad read, and I will be right back. Hi, I'm Jason Marinchuk, a legal Canadian immigrant living in Australia. I also hate the beach and don't wear shorts in public, which makes me an official and ironic expat. Would you like to be an expat too? Well, I have good news for you. Mikkel Thorup, a highly sought-after consultant and host of the Expat Money Show, has organized the world's largest offshore and online event, the Expat Money Summit. October 7th to 11th, tickets are free. You can create your own financial bug-out bag by learning about international diversification, how to get a second passport, offshore financing, and investing in international real estate, all while getting in-depth geopolitical insights from some very, very smart people, such as Dr. Ron Paul, Doug Casey, Scott Horton, There he is. Tom Woods, Mark Faber, Tom Luongo, and many, many, many more. Go to expatmoneysummit.com and get your free tickets. And while you're there, go check out their sexy upgrade packages. I'll be in attendance. Join us October 7th to 11th, expatmoneysummit.com. The most beautiful ad read in existence. Expatmoney.com. Go check it out. Also, if you like coffee and you like families, because who doesn't, scroll down to the description box, smash the like button on your way down there and share this show. YouTube likes to play little games with my channel, so all the support is always appreciated. When you're down there at foxandsons.com, go over to Fox and Sons. Steve is a friend of the show. He runs runs the company with his two sons. It's a good deal. Use 2-bit in the coupon. Use the coupon code 2-bit in your checkout. 15% on orders of $30 or more. Plus, I get a little bit of a handout at the end, which is nice. And thanks you for watching, liking, sharing, and doing all the things with the show. I appreciate each and every one of you. Okay. Well, that all being said, Matthew, would you like to share something with the group?
I will share screen.
Oh, Mark Claire's in the chat. Hello, Mark.
Okay, so there's a thread. This guy helpfully collated this list of clips from the show. So this gives us a good thing to jump off of here. And if it was my show, then I would put it at like 1.5. But we're here with Jason, the old man. So in respect to him, I'll leave it at
no. Actually, for the first clip, you can go 1.5.
Oh, okay.
It's 3.5 minutes, and it's a lot of stuttering. One quick note about the verbal stutter. This is something that Matthew and I both agree on. I believe that Peter hides behind his stutter. I believe it's how would I describe it?
He could get rid of it if he wanted to.
Thank you. It's purposeful in that sense that he could go to a speech therapist, like, the same one that Yarvin's going to, because if you see Yarvin's early interviews and then his most recent stuff, he's gotten a lot better. And I think that has some professional help in there. Peter could do that, and he doesn't. And I think that's on purpose. So,
and he also, there was the famous clip, the one that was in the intro. There was some replies to it when it was going around on Twitter that I think they nailed it. They said, you're watching him when he's stuttering, he's running through iterations of different conversations. So it's actually his stutter. Some people might think his stutter makes him look slow. It's actually, I think, a product of him being so incredibly not slow. He's iterating through a bunch of conversations in his head before choosing which one he wants to go down. And you'll hear that sometimes because he'll lead with one point and then he'll come around and he'll hit the same subject from another angle, and then he'll come around and hit it from another angle as well. And he sorts those out in his head ahead of time.
What happened, in some sense, with ChatGPT in late 22, early 23, was that the achievement you got, you did not get super intelligence. It was not just surveillance tech, but it was you actually got to the holy grail of what people would have defined AI as from 1950 to 2010. For the previous 60 years, before the 2010s, people have always said AI, the definition of AI is passing the Turing test. And the Turing test, it basically means that the computer can fool you into thinking that it's a human being. And it's a somewhat fuzzy test because, obviously you have an expert on the computer, a non-expert, does it fool you all the time, or some of the time, how good is it? But the first approximation, the Turing test, we weren't even close to passing it in 2021. And then, ChatGPT basically passes the Turing test, at least for, like, let's say an IQ 100 average person. It's passed the Turing test. And that was the holy grail. That was the holy grail of AI research for the previous 60 years. And so there's probably some psychological or sociological history where we can say that this weird debate between Bostrom about superintelligence and Kai-Fu Lee about surveillance tech was like this almost like psychological suppression people had, where they were not thinking, they lost track of the Turing test, of the holy grail, because it was about to happen. And it was such a significant, such an important thing that you didn't even want to think about. So I'm tempted to give almost a psychological repression theory of the 2010s debates. But be that as it may, the Turing test gets passed, and that's an extraordinary achievement. And then, maybe, and then, where does it go from here? There probably are ways you can refine these. It's still going to be, a long time to apply it. There's a question. There's this AGI discussion. Will we get artificial general intelligence, which is a hopelessly vague concept. Which, general intelligence could be just a generally smart human being. So is that just a person with an IQ of 130, or is it super intelligence? Is it godlike intelligence? So it's sort of an ambiguous thing. But I keep thinking that maybe the AGI question is less important than passing the Turing test. If we got AGI, if we got, let's say, super intelligence, if we got, that would be interesting to Mr. God, because you have competition for being God. But surely the Turing test is more important for us humans, because it's either a complement or a substitute to humans. And so it's going to rearrange the economic, cultural, political structure of our society in extremely dramatic ways. And I think maybe what's already happened is much more important than anything else that's going to be done. And then it's just going to be a long ways in applying it.
And an interesting thing to think about with this, and this is something that just got dropped in my lap over this past weekend, and I'll be doing more shows about this, I think, in the future, is that a good way of thinking about it is that data is the new oil. And who produces data? Well, we do, and AI does. So if you think of data as the new oil, as it's going to be the lifeblood of this new data economy going forward, that kind of fuels all of these whizzle wazzles and nice new toys in many ways. The conversation around AI and exactly what AI is and what it does and how it harvests things and how we are interacting with it and creating this resource, in a sense, is of vital importance. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, Pete, is that you have no privacy, and that's not because that's not because they care about what you're about to do. Because let's put it honestly, at least in the West, like 99% of people aren't going to be up to do much of no good other than some bullshit breaking some laws that the elites don't care about. They break 12 before breakfast, right? It's that they want to have the excuse of spying on you to protect you and for people's safety, but they're just gaining your data. And this, Pete, and sorry, Matt, goes to something we were saying about, remember in 2020 election when Bloomberg ran?
I was just going to bring that up.
He put a whole bunch of money into this campaign that just kind of was gone, here and gone in almost no time. And we were all speculating, well, why was he doing that? And it's like, well, the election's a fantastic time to gain what? Data. Tons and tons of voting data that only really is available to you if you're running for office, and you have all these companies that are just sucking up data and doing what with? Well, God knows. But certainly has had nothing to do with getting into office. Let's put it that way.
I was working on a tweet in my head the other day, trying to get it to hit just the way I wanted it to. There was something to the effect of, I think an important thing to remember is that political campaigns today are data gathering operations that also happen to reallocate political power from time to time. The data gathering is one of the biggest. That's why there's so many millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars dumped into these, because of the data gathering. I mean, what other opportunities do you have on a regular basis to sample from basically the entire population regarding single events? So you can, it's like a shelling point for huge swaths of the population, and you can get tons of all the polls and all the behavioral stuff. You can draw tons of it. So like Bloomberg, I think his campaign lasted like 3 months or 6 months or something really short, but he spent $1 billion. And I did a little dig into it and realized he spun up an organization that funneled all of the. It was like a social media marketing organization or something, but it funneled all of the data through this organization, and then as soon as he dropped his campaign, they folded. And so it was like there wasn't even a location where they were. It was just some office or something that the address went to. So the data gathering is a really big deal. And what's interesting is with the large language models, one of the headlines I saw recently, it was a tweet thread, showed how when they train the models on data produced by the models, they get like I don't remember what it's called, collapse. Like the whole thing breaks down. They stop making the AI when an AI is producing content based off of a model that was populated by AI generated content, it goes completely incoherent and schizophrenic. That like, to me, that's like, okay, this is a problem that they're gonna set to finding, and they're gonna try to find a solution for it, and they'll come up with some solution, and then they'll encounter another problem down the line. But I do think that this kind of corresponds to a general trend with these new elites, that they want to have a thriving population within the United States. They want to have economic stability and growth and prosperity. And they want people to be happy and dedicated to meaningful work, because that will make them stable, which will give them a foundation to be able to launch into the stars, literally. So, go ahead.
One of the other things we have to remember is a lot of these people
What happened
came up
in some sense with chat.
a lot of these people came up on libertarianism, so they understand that their self-interest, if through their self-interest and them building products, doing things that it can benefit humanity. The one thing that they understand, though, because they're smart and they actually operate in the real world instead of in group chats on social media, is that there's always going to be a state, and that you want to control the state. And in order for you to be successful, in order for your interest to be met, your friends have to be in charge. This is what I've been saying since I left libertarianism. It's like, okay, well, what kind of government do you want? One with my friends in charge. And I'm fine with that if it's communist. Okay, because they're going to take care of me. Obviously, I'm not fine if it's communist. But this whole data thing. So I think most of the polls are fake, like they were in 2016. Data is scraping how we react to that. That we're saying it's fake. That people are arguing that everything is data. People don't realize that. The fact is, who's scraping this data? If it's people like the PayPal mafia and big tech who are trying to figure out who's realizing that all of this is fake, so that they can get a gauge on the kind of moves that they can make that we won't push back against, then they're collecting the data. All of this is, people don't understand the world we live in now. Some people in the chats, I think Sean said that he doesn't think AI is as strong as is all that it's cracked up to be. I tend to agree with that. I don't think we're there yet, but I think AI has the potential to go there. And I think if anybody who could make it go there, there's going to be a race to see who can make it whatever they want to make it. Super AI. But it's going to come down to quantum computing. That's where we're going to go past AI, and it's just going to become about quantum computing at some point. It's how quickly things can process, and I think that's what's being tested. That's what's being tested everywhere. That's what they're scraping the internet for. That's what all this information is. That's part of Elon getting Twitter. All of this stuff is interconnected. And I don't think people realize it, is that you're not seeing anything that's happening by accident. The way what's happening in Israel and Gaza is being reported is not an accident on Israel's part or on anyone else's part. This is all on purpose, not only to give you the news, not only to cause you to be upset, but to see what the percentage of people are reacting, how they're reacting. Everything is data now, which is why I said this morning on my Substack, privacy is gone. The only way you're going to stay private now is you just basically you're going to have to become a Luddite. It's over. Thinking that we have privacy is over. Even Eric Prince's phone. I have so many questions about that. It's like, okay, well, we store it here. Well, it's registered in Israel. The company's registered in Israel. Where are you storing stuff? Okay, I guess I have questions.
I mean, like look at WorldCoin, right, which is being pushed. I think I've made this statement. It's Horowitz who's involved with that, or at least he's pushing it hardest. He's doing it on Little Tech, or speaking about it in connection to Little Tech. And essentially, the conversation with WorldCoin is it's this digital passport system that relies on you getting your ocular data to verify your online digital identity. And if you go to their site and check it out, there's a little video package, and someone makes a joke about it being like Minority Report. I'm like, yeah, it's like Minority Report. Remember that whole B plot where Tom Cruise is trying to run away and trying to avoid detection and being caught by pre-crime, and he has to like pluck out his eyes and put in fake eyes. Yeah, remember that part? Yeah, I don't like that part. That part creeps me the fuck out. Again, this is going into the idea that these are not necessarily our guys. And no matter what happens in November or going forward for the next 10, 20 some odd years, it doesn't change anything in terms of our core message, which is act locally, collectivize or die, and build, right? We are civils. What we build. Why? Because we're civils. It's what we do. Now, hopefully, this group will let us build without a whole bunch of preconditions and some of that. That might be hopelessly naive, but regardless, they're really all about they want one thing, and they really want our data, and they want us to cooperate and do things nicely, or else they have to go the other way. I was even thinking about this. Peter Thiel had that weird dating app.
Mm-hmm.
He's invested heavily in Rumble. Rumble does two things at the same time. It's selling an integrated video platform, and of course is trying to be the YouTube displacer. But that's just data. His dating site, that's perfect data. That's people offering you tons and tons of data completely legally, right, with no coercion. They're telling you this so they can get laid or whatever have you. And you can collect massive tons of data. So when you start seeing these things as data fronts, a lot of other things really start making a whole lot of sense.
One of the things with all that data as well is that, like, for quote unquote AI to become profoundly epochally defining type of transformation, it doesn't have to become it doesn't have to have like a personality and be act like a person or have the consciousness of a human or anything like that. Just the ability to amass this amount of data and then be able to process it and synthesize it and run simulations and explore hypotheses, and being able to not just accelerate that process, but accelerate that process by orders of magnitude upon orders of magnitude, where you no longer have to, before you would have had to have one guy go to the library and he's going to have to pull down every single book and he's going to have to read through all of them. And he's going to have to underline them and he's going to have to take notes and he's going to have to try to synthesize all of this. You can outsource a lot of that now to these types of models, and increasingly so. And then you can get recursive with them and play with that and see what sort of things are generated. So I know a lot of these guys, they're the Californian ideology. They're sort of like 90s California liberals. And the way they see the world is that in the 90s, everything got off track. Everything was on its way up. We were growing. It was prosperity, massive innovation, yada, yada, yada. Then everything veered off track and we went wandering around for the last almost a full generation. And now we need to make up lost time. So being able to not have to dedicate so much time to researching and testing and all of this stuff, being able to iterate through those things can accelerate the innovation process drastically. And that's just on one front. So they're obviously, with all of these things, there's big trade-offs, but it's not like they're not going to happen. It's a digital arms race. So like you can say, yeah, there's lots of all these bad things about a nuclear bomb, but I sure want my country to be able to fend for itself on the world stage. Obviously, there's lots of narratives and stuff inside that, but I'm not going to be like, hey, I want my country to be the one country that doesn't have nuclear weapons in a world where nuclear weapons proliferate. So there's going to be an arms race. There are going to be people that invent these sorts of technologies and that control the use of these sorts of technologies. So the question isn't really, well, can we stop them from happening? No, you can't stop them from happening. All you can do is populate the people who are going to have the most influence with them, and then seek to ally with those people on just simply a pragmatic basis. I'm not going to present myself as an open opponent to you. I'm not going to line myself up in your sights so you can take me out. I'm just going to keep my head down and stay out of the way. And these guys don't seem like they have the inclination to come hunt me down. So as long as they don't have the inclination to come hunt me down, I'd rather them have the access to that sort of technology than the alternatives.
Just quickly, some super chats. Paladin YYZ with $80. Thank you very much, sir. Billionaires don't go on Joe Rogan to tell the truth. They manage narratives. They don't go public and leave the drapes open a tiny bit so you can peek into their living room. My suggestion, super chat and build stuff. Great show. Yes. Take the suggestion, super chat and build stuff in that order, please. Appreciate it. $1.99 from Screwed Up Rebellion. God bless you all. God bless you, sir, or madam, or however you would like to identify. And Colin Mark is gifted 10 2-bit podcast memberships. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patronage. I do
And
appreciate it.
I will say this because I had a phone call the other day with Paladin. He is very interested in building locally. He gets it. He gets it, and that's what's most important. We could sit here, we could talk about what, who's taking over, who's doing what, but it's like I've been trying to say. Do I think that this will change something radically? Is it going to save the country? No. But I think it could take the boot off of our neck long enough that we could do that kind of building, that kind of thing where we, if people want to go and, set up a shop somewhere and a bunch of people want to all move to the same area and they want to base it off and they want to base membership or who's going to live around them off of unsavory ideas like background and skin color or something like that. Hopefully you can get 4 years where you can do stuff like that, where you have the time to go do stuff like that. And then, you just have to worry about the next person getting in power. And, but if you get established and you shut the fuck up and don't tell people you're doing it and advertise it, well, people leave you alone. That's what you want to be, right? You just want to be left alone. We just want to be left alone. The easiest way to be left alone is don't tell people what you're fucking doing. Okay? Just do it. All right, fucking Nike bullshit, 1984. Don't tell people what you're doing. Just go ahead and build. Shut up and build. Or super chat and build. I like that one too.
And if you're a young dude, if you're like a young single dude that is just working some job or whatever, there's a company called Hadrian. It was founded by an Australian guy named Chris Power, and they're building CNC machining shops and building them in such a way that they can be very quickly duplicated, almost like supply chain as a service is the way I've described it. They believe very much in the idea that we need to rapidly ramp up American industry and reshoring American manufacturing. And it's very obvious that the dude is a front. It's very, very clear that he's a front for what I would say is military technology interests. His story is a little too good, but they're hiring young white boys. They want people who are competent. You can go get a job with them. They have a special software program that they'll train you where you can run these machines. One person can run up to 10 of them, and it takes 30 to 90 days to train someone. And they're specifically looking for people that don't have an engineering background or that don't have a manufacturing background, like they retail sales, whatever. We've covered them on the show multiple times. Go apply to work for them. One of the guys in the group applied, and we're waiting to hear what's going to happen with it. But in a very literal, tangible, pragmatic sense, you can also, if you understand where these guys are going, then you can go get a job with working with them and ride the wave up. Allow them to create the ability for you to provide generational wealth for your families.
Let's get to the second clip with Peter Thiel here. I got him.
Okay.
Let's see here. This is Peter talking about Thiel shares his theory on how being compromised is a rite of passage to get ahead in powerful networks. This one was crazy. Sorry for all the Roman Catholics. He throws some shade here.
The riff on it was always that it's a little bit different from the J. Edgar Hoover thing, and the question was always whether the people doing it knew they were getting compromised. And so it's the vibe is not that you somehow got compromised. It was more you were joining this this secret club.
Right.
You got to be made.
Yes.
You're a made man in the mafia,
And you get to do crazy things.
No. It's only if we have compromise on you do you get ahead.
Right.
It's like, it's like, I don't know. It's one of these
Skull and
the
bones
closet.
type
Yeah,
things.
the closet of the Vatican.
Right.
The claim is 80% of the cardinals in the Catholic Church are gay. Not
Right.
sure if that's true, but directionally, it's probably correct. And the basic thesis is you don't get promoted to a cardinal if you're straight, because we need to have, and so you need to be compromised, and then you're under control, but you also get ahead.
What's he saying about himself?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because that's always been my Peter Thiel, friend or fed. Okay, well, Charles Johnson claims that he recruited Peter Thiel to become an informant for the FBI, and but that's Charles Johnson. It's Charles Johnson, right? That's that's the name I'm looking for.
Yeah, right.
But okay, there you go. But also, easiest way to be, and it's not everyone knows that Peter was homosexual. But what else is there? What happened to the guy that fell out the window in Florida? All this stuff, when you get to be a billionaire, from what I understand, they get bored with regular shit real easy, and they start experimenting with fucked up shit. And I'm going to take a strange trip to this country where this stuff is allowed. Who finds out about this? Who can control somebody by doing that? So, yeah.
This was part of I think the most fascinating part of the conversation, the discussion on Epstein, because I think it's significant either way you want to look at it here. So if you want to say that Thiel has been compromised by Epstein in dark ways, and that he's got a lot of dark secrets there that he would prefer not to come out. He's already a very private guy. On that side of things, or if it's the way that he's passing it off, that he kind of dipped his toe in there and was like, "Whoa, there's some creepy stuff going on here," and now I'm going to dish to the rest of the class behind, I'm going to go on Joe Rogan show and start airing out my Reid Hoffman and Bill Gates. In either case, I think it's significant, because if he is compromised by Epstein in dirty ways or anything similar to Epstein, then he's playing quite a game by going out and talking about it publicly, especially for a guy who's very private. And he's the one who brought the conversation up. He's the one who brought up Epstein, and he's the one who brought up Bill Gates. And it was very clear that he had a particular message that he wanted to get out. And I don't know if that's a message directed at, as you said, Jason, at other elites. I don't know if that's a message directed at the people. I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be both. Either way, he had a purpose in going and doing this. And I think that purpose is worth, digging around and figuring out what exactly it is. And it's probably impossible for us to know for sure, but I think there's definitely a story there.
Important background on Thiel, and I think we've said this in other places, but Peter Thiel was mentored and was best friends with Anthony Scalia, the Supreme Court justice who many believe, had
an untimely end.
Right, less than accidental death. And now, of course, he's connected to potentially gay lover or boyfriend being tossed out a window not too long ago, which is why Peter's taken a bit of a back seat and let Mark Andreessen and a few others be a bit more of the front-facing elements of his portfolios. But as we knew from Gawker, and as we can kind of glean from other intel,
And it also, I would add too, that the thrust of this was that there is a club. There is a club. Mm-hmm. These people are part of that club. They're motivated by their desire to be in that club, and being in that club has costs.
I think it's also important to kind of get a hold on these things. When people start thinking like, okay, so Trump's going to get in, and Vance is going to get in, and PayPal Mafia is going to get in, they're going to change everything. It's like they're going to maybe slowly change some things. It could get radical. Who knows? But this is the kind of stuff they're going to have to face. This is the swamp. The swamp is, you have tons and tons and tons of compromised people who are just holding major positions of power that you can easily target, like a Biden or something like that. But you're talking about like how many people in the CIA, how many people in the FBI, how many people all over the freaking place all have dirty little secrets and that's what's controlling them. You take that on a global stance. You take that on in, how many people in France, how many people in, all these different governments. That might be a massive compromised network that they're going to have to, maybe in a Caesar move, which is grab all that data and go, you're people, you're our people now. Like now we own you because we have the compromising data on you. Sorry, Pete, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. There's a good question here from Death saying, what are we going to see right-wing psyops? It's interesting to me. Right-wing, I'm tending to agree with Cryptos that it's really hard to do propaganda and psyops from the right. Because when people do propaganda from the right, say Orrin McIntyre is doing propaganda from the right, who's he hitting? He's hitting boomers, conservatives. He's trying to wake them up to the fact that things aren't what you think they are. And he may, if he's lucky, pull in a left or a right winger. But left-wing propaganda and psyops affect all of us. We get hit by them. There's stuff that we believe right now that is a left-wing psyop, is left-wing propaganda that we're going to have to shed, that we'll figure out. We'll be like, oh, I can't believe I'm still holding on to that. Which is why, I think that the propaganda minister in the 30s, why so much of it sounded left-wing, why so much of it sounded, he understood that you're going to have to play to women. You're going to have to play to people's emotions. Right-wing propaganda tends to try to appeal to people's intellect. Most people are fucking retarded. Okay, you have to appeal to their emotions. So what would a right-wing psyop even look like now? A right-wing psyop right now would look like a left-wing psyop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just wouldn't. We'd struggle to recognize it.
And I think that's part of why like the guys who just they're almost like, I don't know, like ambulance chasers on Twitter that just spaz out about every new drop of information on this thing or that thing or new, like, you got to give it some time, because there's absolutely psyops going every which direction right now. And you could just as easily be falling for a right-wing psyop that's meant to look like a left-wing psyop, and which I think the Trump campaign is doing a lot of that. I think they're doing a lot of left-wing psyops that are being done or motivated by a right-wing psyop inclination. I think part of this is that I think right-wing propaganda is aesthetics. It's not something that propaganda is, I think, innately left wing, and it's innately fox-like. Whereas as the right wing is going to correspond a lot more to the lion-like temperament, which doesn't have time or need for propaganda, because it's just going to do what it's going to do. It's going to strike hard, it's going to strike fast, and then it's going to clean up the mess and move on. It's not going to have the more subversive, protracted, drawn out, expansive nature. It's going to be much more concise. So yeah, I think the best type of right wing propaganda really is aesthetics and art. And if you can do aesthetics and art really well, then it serves the purpose that propaganda serves without having to go through all the rigmarole.
Which is why, a certain group got Hugo Boss to design things and got Albert Speer and Meta Prime has one here. I was trying to get Jason to put it on the screen. He said right-wing psyops are about rage bait, fear of networking, and not building locally. Those are right-wing psyops. Right-wing psyops target the right to de-radicalize them. That's exactly what a right-wing psyop is. It is to de-radicalize anyone who could be moving to the right of a who's the guy who wrote the book Liberal Fascism?
Jonah Goldberg.
Yeah, anyone to the right of Jonah Goldberg has to be psyoped to move back into the center. That's what it is. A psyop, a proper psyop, is going to be regime related. You're going to be using the language of the regime to do it. And the right wing says, no, we can't use the language of the regime to do. Now, that doesn't mean that you run around saying, oh, imagine if the roles were reversed. That doesn't work either. But you have to come out, if you want to understand what a good right wing psyop looks like, go study what that Goebbels guy was doing. Okay? He sounded like a leftist. He hung out with the KP. He hung out with communists until the day the National Socialists took office. He understood all of this. You are not going to psyop people using this. You are going to psyop people, where you get them upset. And getting people upset is emotion. It's about emotion. It's not trying to change. You change someone's mind by causing them to feel discomfort. Right? That's what right wingers don't get, and I think that's something that Kryptos has done a really good job of exposing.
I just want to make a special note here. We're at 1 hour and 7 minutes. This is probably the longest I've gone by not mentioning Girard. So here's Girardian comment here. With Girardian memetics, we talk about desires are always external to the person, right? People don't know what to want until other people want it, essentially, or tell them what to want. With propaganda, it's wanting something that you don't have or that someone else has is much more easier than something that you used to have or that you already have. So with right wing or let's say standard ass conservative kind of ideas, it's calling back to something from the past, which has a whole bunch of baggage, or that people might still think that they still have. Whereas if you're calling on proper left-wing propaganda, it's the future. It's something you don't have yet. It's undefined. What is it? I don't know. It could be really cool. It could be really awesome. It'll be bright and hopeful, and it's euphemisms and all the other things, right? That always sells better because it's something that you don't have yet, or someone else has and you want it. That's why that leftist propaganda works so well, because like you said, Pete, it pulls on those heartstrings of desire. Like, I want the thing that I don't already have, or that my neighbor has, or this elite has. By having it, I will be elite too. How many of these leftists do you see, especially these dick riders, who all start signaling this thing? It's like, Mark Hamill is never going to be a major movie star, no matter how much Democrat dick he sucks. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Right? Your time is done. Move on, son. It was Frodo. Samwise Gamgee, stupid fat hobbit, right? Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, I get it. It's your little tiny chance to be relevant for half a second, but once they're done with you, they're done with you. Like, it's not leading to any star on the Walk of Hollywood here, but kid, that's not how it works. Let me just do some super chats before we kick it back to you boys. Paladin, once again, with $50. Thank you, sir. Saying, with all the erudite philosophy guys and political historians in our space, I've never heard anybody do a show on the drunk looking for his keys under the streetlight. Well, never say never. And how that corresponds to our situation. That's why we build. Truth equals humility. I cannot concur any more. And Tom Mastrato, I think this is what your callback to what you were saying, Pete. One thing to consider is with Thiel, he is an FBI informant. I think we all essentially are FBI informants in our own little way.
I mean, that's if you believe anything that's coming out of Charles Johnson's mouth. And that guy,
I don't even know who Charles Johnson is.
I think Matt and I were having a private conversation once of what is his role right now, with him running around posting some of the stuff that he's doing. It's like you don't think that he's doing this on his own. Like somebody's directing him to do it. Like this would be a psyop of some sort. This would be an op of some sort, with him running around and accusing everybody of everything that he's doing right now.
He's like a professional disinfo agent he's dishing on JD Vance and Peter Thiel about how they're Mossad agents, but he's actually really pro-Israel. But then he's also like he wants to vote for Biden. He's going to vote for Biden, but he's also hanging out with a well-known young streamer, and it's obvious disinfo that he's just spamming out there, and it's pretty clear he works for someone, but who knows who it is. I would add to this also, there's a well-known comment on an AMA on Reddit from about a decade or so ago. Peter Thiel did an AMA, and someone asked him if Palantir was a front for the CIA, and he replied that the CIA is a front for Palantir. I'm sure he's joking, but also, how much is he joking?
Well, it might also be what he plans on the CIA actually being.
Mm-hmm.
Palantir essentially is. Let's put it this way: the Palantir is certainly in more places than the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly much more dug into the system in terms of integral. You could make the argument that you could get rid of the CIA, but getting rid of Palantir would be a very costly endeavor. Like, what would you replace it with? Right? You could replace the CIA with the AIC or something, what other acronym thing you want it to be, right? Palantir is a little bit more dug in to the system than just an agency. Sorry, and Jazziel at $9.99. Thank you, sir. Thanks for the show. Thank you. Okay. Let's see here. Pete, we're coming at 8:15. You said 8:30 is your out. Do we have you for a bit more? Or yeah, okay.
Yep.
Let's get through. Thiel compares California to Saudi Arabia. Or should we go to number 4? Thiel shares his concerns about the U.S., his thoughts about changing the country. Let's do that one, because I feel like that's kind of where we're at in the conversation anyways.
We're just talking about how you're still trapped in LA.
I'm still
How's the volume on that, by the way?
Little low.
There we go.
trapped in LA. I know.
You're friends with a lot of people out here. Have you thought about jettisoning?
I talk about it all the time, and but it's always talk is often a substitute for action. It's always does it or does it end up substituting for action? And
that's a good point.
But I have endless conversations about leaving, and I moved from San Francisco to LA back in 2018. That felt about as big a move away as possible, and I keep the extreme thing I keep saying, and again, I have to keep in mind talk as a substitute for action. The extreme thing I keep saying is I can't decide whether to leave the state or the country.
Oh boy!
And
if you went out of the country, where would you go?
Man, I've it's tough to find places because there are a lot of problems in the U.S. and most places are doing so much worse.
Yeah, so it's not a good move to leave here. But as fucked up as this place is,
but I keep thinking I shouldn't move twice. So I can't decide whether I should move to Florida or should move to New Zealand or Costa Rica or something like that.
Yeah. Go full John McAfee.
And so but can't decide between those two, so I end up stuck in California.
Any thoughts?
The North Seas, doesn't he have a compound in New Zealand? Yeah, he does. He's actually a New Zealand citizen.
It's just I just shared that one for an example of like how he drops certain things. Like, why do you say New Zealand, Costa Rica? Could have said Hong Kong or Alaska or something. We could have picked anywhere, 2 spots in the world, right? Why New Zealand? Why Costa Rica? These are little tells in these conversations that this is the layering thing we kind of mentioned before. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Taking this with the previous clip, which wasn't really necessary to play, just him comparing California to Saudi Arabia, and which is again him. He's like gonna always give both sides of the conversation, and it kind of veils what he's meaning, but he's also indicating like he doesn't want to be ideologically beholden to one perspective or the other. So yeah, it's easy to say, oh, California is a shithole and it's so terribly run and yada, yada, yada. But he's also like, yeah, but it's got staying power. It's not going anywhere. There's a lot of reasons why it's able to sustain itself despite being so corrupt and everything. But that whole conversation, I took it as a declaration of war in Peter Thiel fashion. He's saying, I don't like the way that this is being run. And I don't want to move. So don't make me move. I would rather stay here. I'm not going to move twice. I might move, but I'm not going to move twice. So the way they elaborated on the California conversation, and he mentions how cryptocurrency is libertarian and AI is communist. The overtones here, or maybe undertones as the case may be, were very clear to me that this was in Peter Thiel fashion was a declaration of war on the people who have corrupted the state that he doesn't want to leave.
Zhang Wei says there are small aggressive monkeys in Costa Rica. They stole my friend's iPad on a family vacation. Is that code? Is that a dog whistle that I'm supposed to pick up on? I feel it is. Like my ears are perking. Heart. Monkeys.
Okay, so here's the big thing. Why would he talk about why wouldn't he defend I'd never leave the United States? Why is he putting it out there that he actually would?
The signal, I think, is clear to me, is he's basically saying because he's talking again, Peter's the model for all the VC guys. So basically, it's almost a shot across the current regime's bow, which is like, you either fix this so you can stay here and rebuild this thing in the way we want to, or we're all going to go to Costa Rica or New Zealand and do it there. One of the, these things are going to happen. We're building this thing, whether you like it or not. We can do it here in California, which we prefer because all our stuff's here. But if you force our hand, we'll leave. And when we leave, we're not coming back. And that would be the end of the American regime. Like, then you're on retarded life support.
Well, I mean,
that's how I take it.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, some kind of gulch kind of thing. But it just seems to me that with all of the talk of, every election that it looks like a right winger is going to win, the shit libs all talk about how they're going to move out of the country. It just seems like that is like, it would be beyond that. There's some other reason he said that other than sounding like Amy Schumer, who said that she would move to London, if Trump gets elected.
Well, what's your thoughts, Pete? What do you think? What do you think he's saying or not saying?
I don't know. Sometimes the way he talks, you want to believe somebody like him isn't sparing a word, is thinking about every word. Every word is coded. I have to believe sometimes people just talk shit. That it's just like for the sake of being in a conversation. Why does he say New Zealand? Why does he say Costa Rica? Apparently he has a place in New Zealand. Costa Rica, I don't. It's a place that Americans who are Gen X grew up thinking about if I ever left and went to someplace else, I'd go to Costa Rica. They don't have a standing army. It's really cheap. There's American cities. The cities there with a bunch of Americans. I don't know. I don't know that he was actually like saying anything there. And if he was, I think it would be deep encryption or something like that, trying to communicate with one of his people. Or I don't know. It just sounded like so Gen X-y to me. It just sounds so Gen X-y to me.
Wet blanketing this conversation. Like we're in a friend or fed discussion. This is supposed to be wild speculation and creating whizzle-wazzle narratives, Pete, and there you are being the sensible old man in the bottom corner.
Well,
maybe he's just human after all, folks. I mean, maybe he's just shit talking on Rogan. Like that never happens.
I am like, if you look up Gen X in the dictionary, I am so Gen X. I know everything that happened. I know how it happened. I pretty much know why it happened. And I'm like at the point where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I mean, it's like pretty much how Gen X is. Thankfully, we have some Gen X guys who've actually woken up, who have the means to change some things, who it looks like that's what they want to do. So that's what I'll celebrate.
Yeah, I think
he thought Reality Bites was an amazing documentary.
I think this particular like snippet of the conversation, I agree that he was more just riffing and replying to the questions that Rogan was asking. And the reason he said Costa Rica was because he said New Zealand, Rogan said Costa Rica, and he repeated what Rogan said about Costa Rica. I would be curious to hear what he was going to say after New Zealand, because I think he was probably going to name another place, and then he just said Costa Rica because Rogan did. But the larger conversation about California was what gave me what I heard through it was, I don't want to leave California. There's all these reasons I want to stay in California. Obviously, also, like, I don't want to live in Saudi Arabia, and I'm comparing California to Saudi Arabia. So to me, that was the part that I took as a shot across the bow. That it's revealing that his thinking is California is the place that I want to be, and it is under an occupied government that's not necessarily going to self-extinguish. So it's not like it's going to just supplant itself. If California is going to remain a place that I want to live, then something has to change.
Also, Matt just he's really hopeful that he can move back to Southern California at some point in his life.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
He is dick riding and signaling to Thiel. He's at the Thiel glory hole going, I mean,
if we could take
back plans?
If we could throw out the communists, then I'm back there in a heartbeat.
Pete, do you have time for one more?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay. This is going to be the shot across the bow to this is actually my favorite part of the whole show. If I could sit through the whole thing twice just to watch this repeatedly, is Peter going after let's set this up. Thiel's theory about Bill Gates' complicity with Jeffrey Epstein and the potential truth behind the ultra-rich philanthropy. Wild. I'll play this at 1 and 2.5. Okay, Matt. Just so we
wonder if there are more
going to have a complete autism
conspiracy theories on Epstein that we're missing. So let me do an alternate one on Bill Gates, where
hang on, what's the volume like?
Okay. The things just looking at what's hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
He supposedly talked to Epstein early on about how his marriage wasn't doing that well. And then Epstein suggested that he should get a divorce circa 2010, 2011. And Gates told him something like, that doesn't quite work. He didn't have, presumably because he didn't have a prenup. So there's one part of Epstein as a marriage counselor, which is sort of disturbing. But then the second thing that we know that Gates talked to Epstein about was all this sort of collaborating on funding, setting up this philanthropy, all this sort of this somewhat corrupt left-wing philanthropy structures. And so there's a question, and then my sort of straightforward alternate conspiracy theory is should we combine those two? And was there and I don't have all the details on this figured out, but it would be something like Bill and Melinda get married in 1994. They don't sign a prenup, and something's going wrong with the marriage, and maybe Melinda can get half the money. In a divorce, he doesn't want her to get half the money. What do you do? And then the alternate plan is something like you commit the marital assets to this nonprofit, and then it sort of locks Melinda into not complaining about the marriage for a long, long time. And it's some kind of a and so there's something about the left-wing philanthropy world that was it was some sort of boomer way to control their crazy wives or something like this.
Now that, my friends, is very telling, because it dovetails into something else that got dropped in my lap recently. Let's call it a very convincing theory about what the 2020 to 2022 flu season was all about, really. And it has nothing to do with nanobots, and has nothing to do with like depopulation and a whole bunch of other things. I mean, there might be all those things connected to them, sure, but a lot of it more was how to disengage money from the euro system and save a whole bunch of people from paying out of pocket. And when you start looking at it that way, suddenly a lot more things start making a lot of more sense. Because really, this is going back to my theory. My basic principle when looking at these people is you're talking about massively corrupt people who don't hate you. They don't give a shit about you. They don't care. Bill Gates couldn't pay money to hate you. He doesn't want to be around you. I'm sure maybe he doesn't like certain people. He hates humanity, let's say, as a general whole. Sure. But really what it comes down to, doesn't give a flying fuck. Doesn't care if you live or die. Doesn't care if it hurts you. He's just making sure his bag is taken care of. Thoughts?
He made a point a little later on in the riff where he said, which do you think would be a bigger deal to Melinda Gates? Having her husband out running around on her, sleeping around, cheating on her, or having him try to gyp her out of, I don't know, $100 million or something like that? And I mean, I think she probably would care about the $100 million a lot more. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning, that it's there's kind of a banality of evil thing to this, or it's not banality. It's like the shallowness of it, the flippancy of it. That he makes the point as well about the European perspective on philanthropy versus the American perspective on philanthropy, which is the Europeans or the Americans say when you give lots of money to charity, they say, wow, you must be a really good person. And the Europeans say, wow, you must be a really bad person because you've got something to cover up for. So I think he's again highlighting. He's like, don't get like, sure, there might be these other things, all the crazy deranged sex stuff or whatever. But I actually had made this observation a couple of years ago that it's kind of funny to think about. I can't remember the exact instance, but there was some guy who was sort of vaguely implicated in some of this, and he was horrified. He was publicly emotionalizing about how shocking and gross some of the stories were. And I realized it's kind of funny to think about if you're like some, I don't know, some boomer guy who's a CEO or whatever, and you're going to go to this island, and then there's like some 16-year-old chicks there, and you're like some 65-year-old dude who bangs a 15-year-old or something, and then you hear all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, which comes to be, like infants being disemboweled and all this horrifying stuff, and you're like, oh my god, that's horrifying. I'm not a complete and utter like demon. I just was an old guy who wanted to bang some hot young chick, and I didn't really care how close to 18 she was.
That was the Clintons. That was the whole Clinton. That was all the Clintons. Other Bill, totally other Bill.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
I have a different take on Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates is a bank account.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think that's all he is. He didn't create Windows. Okay, that was taken from I forget who it was taken from. It was taken from another company. They already had it. It was handed to him. Bill is a nice face that's been out there for a while, who his handlers, the people behind him, tell him where to put his money, tell him what to say. These are the kind of people who end up on Epstein's Island because they don't care. They don't really have any power. People like Peter Thiel are not going to end up on Epstein's Island, and he has never been on Epstein's Island because I know someone who knows that has the whole list of anybody who's ever been there, the real list. And there are a bunch of people like this. They're basically what my friend Monica Perez calls they're created people. They didn't invent anything. They were handed something and they're like, here, you're going to manage this for us, but you're not going to actually be the manager. We're going to tell you what to do, and you're just the face that's going to do it. So him talking about all this, I don't know, maybe he's revealing something about what happens behind the scenes, what created people like that. So, yeah.
And I would say that
Screwed Up Rebellion said IBM and Xerox were the innovators on Windows, on the graphic user interface that Windows uses.
And an important component of that story as well is that the name Windows is a very revealing name. Because that's what it is. That's what it became. So this is a military technology, and this created people phenomenon. This would go for not just Gates, but like virtually any billionaire that you see in the public eye. Elon Musk is the exact same thing. Elon Musk is effectively a created person. Now, within those created persons category, there are some who are, I would say, maybe more. Not the word isn't independent, but they're more. Self-directed.
They have a little more leeway to say and do things that they want to do.
Right. Yeah. And I would say Elon is pretty clearly on that, but Elon himself still has handlers. He still has interests that he's beholden to, and people who have played a big role in putting him where he is and allowing him to be the front for the types of projects that they're putting forth. So one
of the things that Elon did that he wasn't supposed to do and immediately started getting phone calls was taking that puff of weed on Rogan the first time he went on. You remember that?
Right. Yes.
And he said, and then he like 2 minutes later, he like grabs his phone and he's like, some people aren't happy with me right now. Yeah. I gotta get going, guys. I always appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to see you, Pete.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Can I plug one thing? One thing.
Of course. Plug as many things as you want. Plug away.
freemanbeyondthewall.com/movies. That's where Thomas and I, it links to where Thomas and I review movies. We just reviewed the first Mad Max movie, 1979. Great. Red Dawn's on there. Resurrection Man's on there. Near Dark's on there. Taxi Driver's on there. Check it out. It's
I personally own
we have a really good time to do it.
I own 3 or 4 of the of those movie pieces. They're brilliant, and everyone should go check that out. And it's a nice little way to support Pete and Thomas. So please,
and we actually set it up so that you can pay one fee for a year. It's a year subscription, and you get, as soon as it's done, that's the first place I upload it. You get an email, and boom, don't have to worry about buying each one or anything. So
look at Pete being the smart man. Look at that. He's got it going on, folks. Don't let anyone tell you.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Anytime. My pleasure.
Yep,
later. $20 from Tom Massaro. Massario? Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. There's a story about Howard Schultz, CEO of Starbucks and Bill Gates' dad. Very telling. Basically a mob boss. I will look into that at some point.
Howard Schultz is, I have very strong feelings about the man. I grew up a big Sonics fan, and the Sonics got sold out, and
this is a sports ball thing.
Yeah. The Sonics, it was super corrupt. They took the team from Seattle and moved them to Oklahoma City, and Howard Schultz is just a backstabbing weasel. Just attribute the worst things imaginable to Howard Schultz, and you're directionally accurate.
He never left Epstein's Island. He was just there on the entire off season. That's
yeah.
Matt, do we have you for a bit longer? Or?
Yeah, I'm good.
Let me see. Let's catch up on the chats. Thanks everyone for showing up and being so active. The chat is going off. We have 349 people watching. I think that is a new live record, especially for a friend or fed. Please like, subscribe, share, do all the things you can to help out the show. Send us a super chat or a tip or a like or a comment or anything. I do appreciate each and every one of you. It's very humbling, folks, and it's coming at a time when I need the boost. So thank you very much. Okay, so number 6, the slowing of technological process might be linked to its perceived dangers. Let's do that. Might be nice if I share the screen, wouldn't it? Professional.
I did that
podcast
like
folks.
3 or 4 times on the Astrolabe this morning.
Did you?
Yeah. Boomering it up.
Because of the time difference, people don't realize that, like, I'm always broadcasting first thing in the morning, which, like, I get up super early so I can wake up. But then, of course, I'm up super early, so I'm never really awake. So my brain is always like on a time delay. I'm about, like, if I could do the show at 2, I'd be great. Like, I'd be fantastic. But it's what we do. It's a labor of love, folks. Okay, because you ain't gonna get this show on the MSM until I sell out completely and totally, and then maybe you will. Okay. So this is Peter talking about the future of technology. This is kind of going into, as you mentioned before, Pete, Matt. This is more of his standard grab bag of talking points.
Is that a feature or a bug? And so the stagnation was sort of like this response. And so it sucks that we've lived in this world for 50 years where a lot of stuff has been inert. But if we had a world that was still accelerating on all these dimensions with supersonics and hypersonic planes and hypersonic weapons and modular nuclear reactors, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here and the whole world would have already blown up. And so we're in the stagnant path of the multiverse because it had this partially protective thing, even though in all these other ways I feel it's deeply deranged our society.
That's a very interesting perspective, and it makes a lot of sense.
Is that
I don't know if these clips cover it, but he talks about, and I think it was in relationship to this, sort of the almost necessity for a totalitarian government when developing something like nuclear. The problem, of course, being that it can be made into weapons very easily. So the only 2 ways that mass nuclear power kind of works is either you he posits one claim anyways that I can remember, is that you kind of almost need a hyper one world government totalitarian style to eliminate the possibility of it ever being used as a weapon at any time. And of course that sounds dystopian. So it's kind of, you have to use it in limited senses and have to build up all these other have to figure out the way to make nuclear power only work as power and not as something that can be made into weapons.
Yeah, there's I think it's 2 clips down from that one. There's another video. It's 2-something minutes long, talking about technological progress.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
I think that one probably would be useful for the conversation here.
Okay, let me just play that. This also, just let's put a pin in this. It's something that I had mentioned to you, Matt, on a conversation. I can't remember when or where, but to me, this return to 1995 thing, which is a very liberal, or let's say the liberal lefty kind of desire. Conservatives want to go back to 1955, or much more like super traditional kind of concepts. The libs kind of seem to want to go back to 95. Brett Weinstein's talked openly about this in those terms. And I find it interesting because 1995, in my mind, was when Gen X should have taken its supremacy, in a standard way of looking at how these things have worked before. Because the idea I think people get locked into is that the great generation just like willfully gave it up to the boomers and to pass the torch and all that stuff. It was more that they built a thing, they started aging out, and then the boomers came in with a whole bunch of youthful energy and new ideas and creativity and desires, and then kind of just took it over, because that's kind of how that usually works. And you had that thing happening in the 90s with the dot-com bubble, But of course, the dot-com bubble burst, and the people on the forefront of that dot-com bubble were all Gen X. And they were creating new industries and on the forefront of doing a whole new structure, or taking over the structures as they kind of matured into the process. And then that got literally the bubble burst, the rug got pulled out from under them on a generational scale. And that led to this stagnation of the boomers staying in power for much longer. Now, whether that was, I don't think that was by design, but they certainly took advantage of it. And it's taken this much time for the Gen X, or for the boomers, to basically age out completely. And now Gen X is now reascendant with this new technology. And this one seems to be a lot more firmer, because maybe they've learned their lessons from the dot-com bubble.
Yeah. And if you think about in time, the timeline here, you have the dot-com bubble bursts, then you have 9/11, then you have the intervening time. So you have the 9/11 to 2008, basically, that's all taken up entirely with foreign wars and oil and fights and debates and all this stuff. And then you have the Great Recession, the so-called collapse of the housing market. And then after that, you have the race wars start, essentially. And then you have the Trump phenomenon, and then you have Russiagate, and then you have COVID, and then so it's ever since the dot-com bubble burst, there's been just kind of like a scattering and a fracturing up into a bunch of different kind of chaotic initiatives. And the 90s was basically the last time that you could really say we felt like we were on the mountaintop as a culture, that there was an ascendancy, there was this feeling of power and prosperity and opportunity and hope, and these guys were coming from, if you think about the 90s in California, was not shit lib central. It was massively prosperous. It was beautiful. It was Republican. It'd been a long time Republican stronghold. It was a time of great opportunity and excitement. That's the thing that defined them. So they, as a generation, and particularly the Gen X guys from California, as a generational cohort, feel like their opportunity has been stunted, that they've had their future taken away from them. And not just that, but we're also now there's all this like stored up, pent up energy that is yet to be released. It needs to have an outlet. We need to wrangle things back to get us back on track where we were before and try to pick up where we left off. And then we've got to make up for lost time. So there's a very there's both like an existential crisis sense and also like a kind of sentimental lost history aspect to it, that we need to recover our birthright.
Yeah, definitely. Or as Charles Spadil put it, the true change will come when it's a Gen X head on a Gen Z body.
Yes.
And that's when we're going to see things. And then, I won't flog my own horse a little bit too much, but then you have the incoming vengeful sun spirit and a whole bunch of other things on the horizon, which makes things much more existential, much more immediate, and much more, dare I say, interesting in the coming 40 years, let's say. Okay, let's play this clip. This again, Peter, talking about technology.
Certainly, the story I would generally tell for the last 50 years, since the 1970s, early 70s, is that we've been not absolute stagnation, we've been in an era of relative stagnation where there has been very limited progress in the world of atoms, the world of physical things. And there has been a lot of progress in the world of bits, information, computers, internet, mobile internet, now AI.
What are you referring to when you say the world of physical things?
It's any, if we had defined technology, if we were sitting here in 1967, the year we were born, and we had a discussion about technology, what technology would have meant? It would have meant computers.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, he says, in 1967, the year that we were born, because earlier, Rogan asked him, how old are you? And he said, he didn't tell him how old he was. He said, I'm the same age as you. We were both born in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
How does Peter Thiel know what year Joe Rogan was born?
Because he did his homework.
Right.
Which is also an interesting little way of him telling him verbally that I've done my homework.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's kind of a power move. It's a little unsettling. If I was having a conversation with him and he was like, "Oh, I was born the same year as you," I'd be like, "How the hell do you know what?" And I think that's the sort of thing that I'm sure Joe would if you were having a conversation with someone and they said something like that, you would feel that. It'd be kind of a little poke. And that's, I think, why Joe started getting more riled up throughout the interview, because he got a bunch of those little jabs under the table from Thiel, which are interesting. I think some of it can be attributed to autism. Like I think Thiel's the type of guy that would be like, okay, I'm going to go and do this interview, and so let me see what there is to know about Joe. And I think that some of that is a little bit of the just, like autistic guy wants to cover all of his bases, kind of. But then it's also there's just something else there.
The impression I always get from Thiel is someone who is internally who wants to be reckless, but is very, very careful and purposeful. One story I heard about Thiel was that he paid off the house of the Kasparov, who's a chess genius. He basically put him on retainer and paid off his mortgage, so that the idea with having like Kasparov would come over. Peter spent every single day dedicating some time to playing chess with Kasparov, and until he could beat him. Right, and then he just said no thanks.
Yeah, right.
Continue his services. So that's Peter, but I always get this sense that there's a little bit of impetusness in behind there, where he really wants to fuck around, right? He really wants to be more like Elon in some ways, who takes massive risks, but it's just not his. It's not his nature. That's not how he operates.
Right.
So sometimes I think he gets those little digs in. That's that little indication that there's that other side to Pete too, which he keeps very controlled. But sometimes it kind of eats out, and he's like, man, boop. Yeah, I'm in charge here, motherfucker. don't talk about fucking DMT on my time, But okay, let's finish this.
Yeah.
It would have also meant rockets. It would have meant supersonic airplanes. It would have meant new medicines. It would have meant the green revolution in agriculture, maybe underwater cities. It sort of had, because technology simply gets defined as that which is changing, that which is progressing. And so there was progress on all these fronts. Today, last 20 years, when you talk about technology, you're normally just talking about information technology. Technology has been reduced to meaning computers. And that tells you that the structure of progress has been weird. There's been this narrow cone of very intense progress around the world of bits, around the world of computers, and then all the other areas have been relatively stagnant. We're not moving any faster. The Concorde got decommissioned in 2003 or whenever. And then with all the low-tech airport security measures, it takes even longer to fly, to get through all of them from one city to the next. The highways have gone backwards because there are more traffic jams. We haven't figured out ways around those. So we're literally moving slower than we were 40 or 50 years ago. And then and that's sort of the and then of course there's also a sense in which the screens and the devices have this effect of distracting us from this. So when you're riding a 100-year-old subway in New York City and you're looking at your iPhone, you can look at, wow, this is this cool new gadget, but you're also being distracted from the fact that your lived environment hasn't changed in 100 years.
These kinds of observations from him, the observation of the Concorde was decommissioned, so we're not doing these like the supersonic travel, and at the same time our traffic jams are worse and worse, so we're literally moving slower now than we ever have. These are the sorts of I don't know if you'd call it an analogy or just like a perspective on things, where Peter will take he observes these patterns and these meta patterns and then compares them and draws them together. This is the sort of thing that his interviews are so great for, because you can hear how comprehensive of a view that he takes on everything. And then comparing the holding a brand new flashy whiz bang iPhone, but being in a 100-year-old subway that's degenerate and collapsing around you. It's funny that we talk so much about Palantir and about the whole digital world and AI and all these things within the context of Thiel, when it's almost proof of his point that we've been so obsessed with the world of bits and not focused on the world of atoms, that he comes out and says he's known for being the guy that this is like, people who know who Peter Thiel is, if you've listened to any conversation he's ever had, he's said this atoms and bits thing. And his whole point is we're not working in the world of atoms enough. And then everyone who talks about him just associates him with, he's the digital guy. He's the guy who wants the digital panopticon. He wants the runaway super AI. He wants to control you digitally, when his big concern is the physical world and how far we've fallen behind it. Nobody talks about Peter Thiel and the free private cities initiatives that he's been funding, the seasteading, the background that he has. His focus, his entire life basically has been on, like, he did PayPal, he did Palantir, and then he pivoted. And since then, his primary focus with virtually everything that he's done and talked about has been the stagnation and the lack of growth that we have. Like, he's not an accelerationist, because he'll just as well make the case for you that runaway acceleration isn't going to be a good thing. We have to be able to we're not going to be able to just fall in one camp or the other. We have to balance these things, where we can't be Malthusians. We also can't be accelerationists. How do we thread this? How do we thread the line here?
You know, when we were doing that series about civilizational capital, maybe we'll get back to that at some point in the future as things kind of calm down politically one way or the other. One of the things, here's a connected idea, and see what you do with this. So we posit the idea that, or we're going with the Nick Land idea that that capital is the derivative, let's say, or the result of human competency. Let's look at it in terms of investment. We take human competency and we invest it, or human capital, and we invest it into things, and it creates capital. Things get easier and better at you. You start making airplanes. The first few are very expensive and difficult to do. The more you do it, the better you are at doing it. And all of a sudden, then you have aerospace engineers and whole schools dedicated to it. And theoretically, at least, Boeing, you get better and better and better at doing this thing, and it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to produce, right? Unless you keep adding on to the design. Now, I think there's an event horizon with this technology, especially in the world of atoms, where the reason why we have planes falling from the sky, or the reason why we have, let's say, a competency crisis, is that there's no new thing for people to aspire to. Mm-hmm. So what you end up doing is creating these ceilings. And this is, I think, key to understanding what happened in the Soviet Union, because they ran out of space to innovate. Their own ideology and whatever have you, reasons, kept them from innovating any further than they did. They hit a wall. And once they hit that wall, everything started collapsing, because it becomes impossible to maintain it. You need that desire, that transcendent desire. That's something that Girard talks about as the most common, let's say, unifying desire of all humanity, which is the desire to transcend. Well, that transcendence is into the new, the possible, the impossible becoming possible. So you activate a whole bunch of new people who want to be aerospace engineers, and you're attracting the top minds into the school to be on the forefront of this new technology, to push the envelope, to really do something fantastic and amazing. And in their wake, who's drafting behind them are all the other people who maybe won't get to be on the forefront, on the cutting edge of technology, but can sure as hell design the fuck out of an airplane, though. Right? Because what they're trying to do is be that next level. And if they fall short, well, then they're just, if you needed 99% on the scores to be on the forefront, and you get 95, so you don't get to be designing the new rockets, but you get to be designing and working on the pre-existing airplanes and making them better and more sexier and better and more efficient. Well, that's not, it's a decent second prize. I think that's almost a hierarchy of development, of capital itself, of human competency itself. That if when you remove the event horizon for too long, when you limit the possibilities and potentiality, what you do is you get less. It's almost like nihilism seeps into competency itself, and then you start flatlining, and then planes start falling from the fucking sky, which again was not part of the fucking plan. I refuse to believe it. I will never believe that.
Peter, being a student of Gerard, the value then of modeling and having models who, like Elon, the people who can model that once in a generation risk taking, shooting for the stars type behavior is what cultivates this. It's what it rouses that spirit again in people and gives them permission to go out and take risks. What does not? What does the opposite of that is having an elite class that is incompetent and breeds incompetence and is motivated. The models, like your Bill Gates, this ties in the other part of the conversation. You have Bill Gates as the model. What's he modeling? Well, he goes out and he does these charitable donations and he sets up these NGOs and he's sponsoring research and all these sorts of things. And what's he really motivated by? Well, he's motivated by trying to screw over his wife in the divorce. He's motivated by trying to protect his assets. He's motivated by trying to pay to have a great public image, but not actually do anything, not actually make any substantive change, but just to whitewash his own image and protect his own assets. So he's contrasting these here, and you can, I don't know if he's doing it intentionally necessarily, but you see this in the message that he's talking about, and it's something that he's obviously very motivated and exercised by this. If you listen to his other appearances, the absence of quality models, which are forcing us into this devolving degenerate spiral socially, while everything rots around us. And something's gonna have to change. There's gonna have to be something that breaks us out of this loop of stagnation and begins that upward trajectory again, while also recognizing the fact that we don't necessarily want to just dedicate ourselves to growth for the sake of growth, because that's cancer. So you have to figure out how to manage this tension.
Which, okay, I'm live thinking this now, so forgive me if I'm inaccurate or need to double back on this at some point. But this might be the key to why Elon wants to go to Mars. Maybe it's not about going to Mars. It's setting that target. We're going to go to Mars. Whether that's possible or impossible or whatever, firmament, flat Earth, yada, who knows, right? Doesn't matter. You set the target at Mars. Now imagine all the things you're going to develop, right? To feed this desire to go to Mars. Maybe it is underwater cities. Maybe it is finding out a way to make nuclear fission power effective and non-weaponizable. Maybe it is creating hypersonic travel across the globe. And all this other technology that, of course, well, we need this on Mars, right? We're going to need this on Mars, so we better develop it here because we're here now, so we might as well build it. Right?
Starlink is like digitally terraforming. Is like the technology you build the entire Starlink apparatus to provide complete internet coverage all over the Earth, and the reason you're doing it is because the goal is to be able to digitally terraform Mars. We have our Mars colonies. We want to make sure we've got good internet up there, right? You got to be able to watch porn while you're on Mars. So we have that vision cast for us, which is what enables us to get global cell coverage and internet access, which then enables you to map things, track things, data.
Right. So now we can speculate whether Musk actually believes in going to Mars or not. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, maybe it doesn't matter. Right? Maybe it doesn't matter at all, because the target is to build as much new cutting edge great amazing things here. And then, hey, if we can actually get to Mars and do that, cool, awesome. Hey, win-win-win, right? But if not, we just have a whole bunch of new cool stuff on Earth. And isn't that good too? That I'm just putting that together. It's another separate idea, and I said this during the flu season, the long flu, was we make these things real. We make it real. We are the missing integer in the messaging and what actually comes of it.
Agents of hyperstition.
Right. And as they've lost their narrative device to put these ideas in our heads and for us to make these things real on some way, shape, or form, as those messaging systems have been either taken from them or corrupted, suddenly this is where you're seeing the regime really cascade fail. Because for a while it was able to promote. I was just one of the things that people talk about is predictive programming, right? Especially through movies, and one of the ones that comes up is Children of Men. I always liked that film, and I just rewatched it a little while ago. Very shitlib in many ways, which I didn't pick up on the first few watching, but I've changed since then. But when you're watching it and you're seeing that, yeah, they're saying certain things like, what if humanity stopped producing children? What if you had this massive demographic collapse, and what would the world look like? And it was very depressing and nihilistic. But by putting that idea out there, we start to work on it. You think of all the pandemic movies that were around for a long time. And so there's a little bit of credence to these people who think it's predictive programming. But the predictive programming people think this is the plan, and they're trying to feed it to you to normalize it. It's like, no, this is the plan. They're feeding it to you so you accomplish the plan. We make it real by almost willing it into existence. And this programming is not meant, is people who can will into existence isn't everybody. It's not the supreme collective. It's actually a very small percentage of people, but those small percentage of people are freaking magic. So they can actually warp and start changing reality in real time over a course of time. This gets into spirits. This gets into what we would call egregores. This gets into possessions, right? It's like people who can manipulate reality itself by an act of will. This gets into prayer. This gets into, all these desire, right? What is Girard talking about? Well, it's mass desire. It's people changing the world around them to accomplish something. And oftentimes when you're talking about something very metaphysical, that's an act of supreme will. Like, you have to will it into existence in order to achieve it. It's not just, no one just farts out a book. I mean, some people do, but any great work is an act of literal will upon the page and upon future readers.
That sounds painful.
Well,
hyperstition is hyperstition is the word of the day, because that's exactly what you're talking about here. Basically imagine it like a superstition that comes true because people have it. This is a feature of the way that human beings interface with reality. I think Orthodox anthropology, I happen to believe that Orthodox anthropology explains this best, but human beings are unique. We're not just animals. We're being made in the image of God means that we have the creative capacity to generate things that didn't previously exist. And this isn't just other human beings. It isn't just putting things together with our hands physically. It's like, the act of inventing something is really profound. You looked at this space in front of you and you imagined the outline of a thing. And then you went and you compiled a bunch of different atoms and you filled this space with those things. And you made a thing appear in this space that wasn't there before. You could do this with your hands physically, but you could do this with your mind as well. The hippies will call it manifesting, or you've got the law of attraction, or these sorts of things. But these are all ways that the human being interfaces with reality. We bring things into being with our minds. You could also call it meme magic. This is what 2016 was. 2016 happened because people believed it could happen, and they began casting a vision of it, what it would look like. They literally memed it into reality. And the same thing can apply here. This is why the no fucking blackpilling message is so important. And I'm going to keep saying it no matter how long I don't care if people get tired of it. If you are blackpilling, you are willing into reality the thing that you claim to be afraid of, the thing that you claim to not want. By focusing your attention and your emotion and your energy on it, you are transmuting reality in front of you into the bad thing, which is made all the worse by the fact that it would take probably less energy to manifest the good thing. You could take all of that energy that you focus on black pilling and you can white pill. You can cast a positive vision. You can become a mimetic model, or you can follow a mimetic model. And you could bring about a reality simply by imagining it. I mean, not simply by imagining it, but the first step is imagining it. And when you imagine it, you are now taking the first step toward actually making it happen.
Oh, I'm getting moist, in the good way, not the waltz way, but in the good way, like not in the hands way, like in the.
I do notice that it says friend under your head and it says fed under mine, and you're all bright and dapper looking, and I'm all dark and dark MAGA looking.
It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. Just saying, I'm willing it into existence. Yeah, the no blackpilling is really important, and also, I mean, no matter what happens, I think we'll put it this way: I honestly do think after November or February or whatever the hell, we're going to see a regime change one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think to go into what we were saying earlier too is that no matter what happens, though, no matter, let's say it beneficiaries us. Let's say we do get on the payroll, right? We keep working, we keep pushing. We don't just get past that line and go yay, and then go back to grilling. There is no go back to grilling. Grilling is done, right? We can grill on the weekends. Pick a day, right?
We've got to build so that our grandchildren can grill,
our great grandchildren, or whatever. Exactly, like. What is thrust upon us, the weight and the responsibility upon us, and this is why I'm more inclined to cast my vote for friend with Thiel, at least friend right now, friend for the moment, friend for the next 20, 30 years, is that I think he sees this too, right? Where we need to, things are falling apart real fast, and I'm not talking just regime or geopolitics or something that's the easy ones to look at. I'm saying, again, my DMs are full of people telling me about how a bunch of safety divisions are retiring in very critical, scary places, and there is no backup, there is no replacement. Whoops. So what happens when those things start to break or fall apart? Like the cascade failure we're facing isn't just going to be about capital gains and promises, whatever. Like that'll be the least of your worries. Again, planes falling from the fucking sky, folks. It's not a joke. So, and it's not part of the plan. So the only way we can reverse that isn't just by simply saying we get what we want when we wanted it, and yay, good, and all these fine folks will deal with it. It's like no, we got to lean in, and we got to do the work too. Independent of them, and if we can, we'll join forces where we can. If not, fuck it, we'll do our thing. And I think that's, not to get to the end of the show, but like I think that's the message I would rather people leave here with, is that no matter what happens, we build. Why? Because we're civils. It's what we're built to do. We are the white man in this case. we're gonna continue, and that's independent of your skin color, by the way. It's just that's what we do, and to renege on that responsibility, I think is you might as well go full troon.
There's a comment here from Faithful Faustia, and I want to reply to and tie into something I was saying that ties into what you're saying. He said there's a link between technology and nihilism. The printing press is probably the first big leap into nihilism. Yes, that's correct. And at the same time, as a good friend of both of us, David Gornowski, has pointed out many times, the Bible begins in a garden and it ends in a city. A city is perhaps the apotheosis of technology. Ultimately, technology is we can see from that narrative there that technology is not a strictly corrupting, degenerating force. It's actually a natural outworking of human behavior. You can't really draw a line around technology that doesn't include things like relationships, emotions, words, like fundamental the use of like a tool, like any you can't be a human being and not engage in the use of technology. And in fact, the act of conceiving of and using and failing and being betrayed by and abusing technology is a key part of the human experience. We are redeemed by our technology because it reveals to us who we are. When we use the technology and we use it where we allow ourselves to be degenerated by it, we see a reflection of ourselves. It's a way of like externalizing ourselves out and then looking at it and seeing ourselves, which gives us the opportunity to repent. And our responsibility as human beings is to employ technology and to redeem the technology. Because as we redeem the technology redeems us. And this is the thing I was going to tie it into, that I was saying about how we build so that our grandchildren can grill. And the little secret here is that by the time that our grandchildren are around, they're going to need to build so their grandchildren can grill. And then when their grandchildren are around, they're going to need to build so their grandchildren can grill. And so it continues. There is whether you're talking on a scale from election to election or from generation to generation or from century to century, there is no attaining the height. There is no arriving at utopia. It's a constant iterative process of growth from the human level on a human individual, maturing throughout your entire life and growing and falling and getting back up and falling and getting back up and falling and getting back up and falling and getting back up. The same thing maps onto the generation level. It also maps onto the civilization level. American civilization. By the time the whole story is told, maybe it'll last for 1,000 years or something before it'll have progressed sufficiently to where it's kind of morphed into something else. And then you'll be able to look back and tell the story of American civilization from its birth to its downfall. And once American civilization is in the past, there will be a new civilization. They would be comprised of new people who are going through this same process. You don't escape this process. This is the purpose of this life that we're living, is to conceive of technologies and interface with the technologies and be led astray by the technologies, to lead others astray with the technologies, to recognize it, to see ourselves revealed in them, to repent of our going astray, to repent of our leading others astray, and to continue every time we fall to get back up. You fall, you repent, you get back up. You fall, you repent, you get back up, and do it over and over and over and over again. There is no get the magic solution, vote for just the right person, conceive of just the right product, invent just the right system of governance, and then we can just set it up like a perpetual motion machine and go on with our lives. That's never going to happen. At every single decision point, we are faced with, we're going to choose this or we're going to choose that. And when we make the wrong choice, it's going to blow up in our face. It's going to reveal to us who we actually are. We're going to learn something about ourselves. We're going to repent, and then we're going to get up and we're going to do it again.
Return, repent, redeem.
Yes.
Every single day, every single way. It's what the Jesus prayer is. It's return, repent, redeem. And that has to be, let's say, a continual refrain or direction, not just for yourself and your family, but for society and civilization itself. Without it, we get to where we're at. And which, again, bitter white pill, it just means that, hey, we get to see, what's the old meme? Jesus, why do you send me your hardest trials? And he's like, look, dude, your enemies are literally like purple-haired shroons, like dressing up as the devil. What more do you need? And they're incompetent as well. Like, that's the even better part. Like, it's we're not even dealing with Saturday morning cartoon villainous creatures that can really know what the hell they're doing. It's like the worst thing they're going to do is just like round people up and put them in jail. And it's like, how are they going to keep you in jail? Like, the jails are falling apart too, right?
Yeah, right. There was one last clip in there that I think would be interesting. The one about faster than light travel.
Yeah, I was just about to play that. So this is about faster than light travel, according to Thiel, would require either perfect altruism or total control in alien civilizations. Free agency wouldn't be possible. Any alien with faster than light travel would have to be one or the other. angels or demons? And yeah, I think this goes directly into a lot of things we're talking about.
You have to share it.
You know what? Matthew with a C, Matthew Erickson with a C. Just calm down.
I always wonder, and again, this is a little bit too simplistic an argument, but I always wonder, that I'm about to give, but what the alien civilization can be like. And if you have faster than light travel, if you have warp drive, which is probably what you really need to cover interstellar distances, what that means for military technology is that you can send.
Sorry, I should set this up in the actual conversation in the podcast. Rogan was off on one of his things, and he was kind of speculating about how humans almost seem to be like our evolutionary thing is to become these like robots or aliens of another species kind of thing, and to take control of the universe and fly around, and that aliens are somehow just going to be benevolent. They're here to help us or to intervene and do good things for humanity. And this is sort of Peter's rebuttal to that.
Real quick as well, this was where Joe was really getting on my nerves. Like, it was kind of annoying at first. The whole pyramid thing was kind of okay. I was actually kind of curious to hear what Peter would say about the pyramid thing, and then Joe dragged it on too long, and then he talked about psychedelics, and Peter was like, "All right, whatever, do your drug thing, but let's talk about something interesting." But then here was where, for the last like hour of the conversation, Joe just would not let go of this. It just kept insisting over and over again. Well, I think the AI is just gonna evolve us into something that replaces us, and then it's going to, and really maybe this is what's already happened other places, and these aliens have come and they've met us and everything, and Peter is saying over and over again, like him, this little riff he goes on here where he's saying angels versus demons, and the alien, he's like, okay, I'm going to take your idea and I'm going to dismantle it from the inside out, because you're insisting on this like alien super intelligence thing that is whatever, it's going to come take over humanity, or it's going to look at us and be like, oh, these silly bald apes, blah, 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 blah. And he's making the point here that this alien idea is bullshit. He's going to take it to its logical extent, and these aren't aliens. This notion of like, he made this point as well with regard to the ancient civilizations. He says, I think that they had some technological advances, but they weren't as advanced as we are in a lot of ways. And the reason I think he's making this point is because there's he, I believe, does not believe there is some sort of super advanced alien race out there somewhere just waiting for us to show up. He actually, I think, almost says explicitly he thinks it's demons. The whole UAP thing is demons. But he was fed up with this. I was fed up. I could feel his frustration with Joe just harping on this over and over again, that there's going to be some super advanced thing that's already ahead of us and we're catching up to that. He's like, no, I don't like the idea of humanity being extinguished. I think humans are good. I think we should have humans. I think we should do things that are good for humans, that promote human flourishing and human thriving, and just kind of treating it as a foregone conclusion that or a fait accompli that there's some sort of super advanced thing, or there's got to be some sort of super advanced thing that then takes us out. He's the subtext throughout the rest of the conversation beyond just this clip here was, we are the super advanced thing. We are the thing. There is no like, be afraid of that thing that's out there. It's us. We're the super advanced thing, and we need to take our decisions very seriously right now because of the implications that they have.
Yeah, I think what I loved so much about this particular analysis, I'll start from the start on this one, is that so quite often when these conversations, especially with atheists or agnostics or whatever the hell you want to call them, they do this magical thinking thing. Like even having a conversation about something post-human, I don't care what happens post-human.
Right.
But if it's I'm human, anything that is, if we don't exist anymore, whatever happens after that, not my problem. Like it's
I'm concerned about the weather patterns when we're dead. I'm not.
No, what? Why? Like, I'm concerned about things that will live on past me that are connected to me in this life here and now. I get concerned about you or my daughter or family and that kind of thing. Sure. But if we're really going to speculate about some sort of human Borg, not human thing, I don't give a shit about that thing. If it is to come to pass, well, shit. Fuck. I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, I won't be here by definition. So
right, well, exactly. Even if we are, we won't be. So it doesn't really matter. But okay, let's start from the start with this because I think it bears the full watch.
I always wonder, and again, this is a little bit too simplistic an argument, but I always wonder that I'm about to give, but what the alien civilization can be like. And if you have faster than light travel, if you have warp drive, which is probably what you really need to cover interstellar distances, what that means for military technology is that you can send weapons at warp speed and they will hit you before you see them coming. And there is no defense against a warp speed weapon. And you could sort of take over the whole universe before anybody could see you, could see you coming. And this is, by the way, this is sort of a weird plot hole in Star Wars, Star Trek, where they can travel in hyperspace, but then you're, flying in the canyon on the Death Star.
So slow you can see the bullets.
Yeah, it's like and then you're doing this theatrical Klingons versus Captain Kirk at 10 miles per hour or 20 miles per hour or whatever.
It's
right?
funny when you put it that
it's
way.
An absurd plot hole.
Yeah.
And so it tells us that I think that if you have faster than light travel, there's something really crazy that has to be true on a cultural, political, social level. And there may be other solutions, but I'll give you my two. One of them is that you need complete totalitarian controls. And the individuals, they might not be perfect, they might be demons, doesn't matter, but you have a demonic totalitarian control of your society where it's like you have like parapsychological mind meld with everybody, and no one can act independently of anybody else. No one can ever launch a warp drive weapon, and everybody who has that ability is in like a mind meld link with everybody else, or something like that. You can't have libertarian, individualistic free agency.
Right.
And then I think the other version, socially and culturally, is they have to be like perfectly altruistic, non-self-interest. They have to be angels. And so the Pazulka literal thing I'd come to is the aliens. It's not that they might be demons or angels. They must be demons or angels if you have faster than light travel. And both of those seem pretty crazy to me.
He is a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Catholic?
Yes.
Yes, Catholic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's I know from multiple sources that he is very much a devout Christian, and that his two biggest mentors were both devout conservative Catholics. So Girard and Scalia. So it's a pretty good conclusion to come to, I think. And really, and this is, I see people that they don't follow what he's saying here. He's not making the case for the faster than light travel thing. He's saying you're the one posing. You have to have the rest of the context of the conversation leading this, but he's saying you're the one posing that like we launch nukes and some other advanced civilization with faster than light travel somewhere else said, oh, there's been a hole in the fabric of reality. We need to go investigate it and see what's going on. And he's saying, well, if that's your proposition, then if you're thinking about a society that has the ability, that has warp speed weaponry, well, putting warp speed weaponry in the hands of a society there's only two ways that it's going to exist. It's either going to be fully demonic or fully angelic. You're not talking about an actual. You might speculate about these sci-fi things in this sort of gay new atheist sort of way, but in practical terms, if you were to actually have something like that, they're not going to be like some species that's like, oh, what are these humans doing? Let's come check on them and let's go kind of fuck with them a little bit and try to keep them from getting the weapons and that sort of thing. Like, this is a preposterous notion, and it also gives implications for humanity as well. He's strongly implying this, that if we're to advance to that sort of level, these are the implications that it has for our society. The only way that we're going to get to that point is either being perfectly altruistic or perfectly demonic. And if we can't be perfectly altruistic, then we're probably going to be perfectly demonic. Like, you're not going to pigeonhole Thiel as an accelerationist or a Luddite. He doesn't. He's neither one. He's saying, like, he's a human. He's a human who wants humans to exist. And these are big questions that have to be grappled with, and they need to be grappled with seriously, not in this sort of half-cocked, like, ooh, what if they're like aliens, bro? That they saw the big boom and they came over and they're like fucking with us, man. Like, these are like serious conversations.
Just to jump in for a second, there's a nice little side quest. Ever notice that advanced aliens who come down and build really big, weird monolithic structures on Earth always use stone and not like space age materials? That's weird, isn't it?
You're right.
That they just instruct people on masonry. It's I just saw when there was one across my. I didn't even click on the video, but on my YouTube feed, it was they found this monolithic structure carved into a side of a mountain that humans could never have made. It's like, so what? Aliens came down and just really like bricks? Like, they're just really into terracotta. That's their groove. It's a weird kink. I grant you, but were they kind? They're like, well, we don't want to freak them out too much. The existence of us is weird enough as it is. We better talk to their level. Here's some interesting stonework. Like, what? No.
You don't want to take their kinks for granted,
Christian asks, Matt is gay? Yes, Matt is.
Yes,
Matt
correct.
Is gay. Yes. Very, very gay. I see some people talking about, I don't know if this is, I've lost ability to tell if people are being sarcastic or not sometimes, but people are saying, can Peter be Catholic and gay or Christian and gay? I'm like, I don't know what to do with that question.
It's
Yes.
Yes.
You can be those things. Yes.
Can you be?
Can you be a sinner and be a Christian?
Yeah, right. It's almost like it's by definition. Yeah. Can you be Christian and I don't know, cheat on your wife? Can you be Christian and watch porn? Can you be Christian and cheat someone? Can you be Christian and steal something? Yes. All of those things. Can be Christian in those things.
I try not to harp on other denominations and stuff, but this is where the evangelicals are really fucked with people's heads, because this whole like dunking water, you're good thing is like, no, the dunking water is good. Like, God bless you, but now you're on the path. Like,
that's
all
the beginning.
Work's in front of you. Yeah,
right.
It's not the end.
We've said this so many times, but I'm sure there's a larger audience. You said it was the largest audience you've ever had for one of these, so it probably bears saying again. Peter Thiel is not public about being gay. Peter Thiel was very upset when he was outed. He was outed as being gay, and he absolutely shat down the throat of the company that outed him. He completely annihilated them, salted the earth, and pissed on it. He's not happy about being gay. He's ashamed of being gay. So, he's not out here caping for troons, very obviously. So, yes, I don't care that he's gay. In the same way that I don't care that Trump has cheated on his wife or slept with hookers or whatever he might have done. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not giving it my stamp of approval. I'm saying that, yes, these men are sinners. These men have sinful proclivities. They've made bad decisions. Who hasn't? Will
Emmanuel says, can you be Christian and not hit the like? I don't think you can. I think if you're a good
that's
Christian,
the exception.
You're going to hit the like, you're going to hit the subscribe, you're going to share this, you're going to send us a super chat or some sort of tipping option. You're going to go check out Matt. Shill for the audience, please, Matt. Tell the people where we can reach you at as we wrap this one up.
King Pilled is the YouTube channel and the podcast. I need to get a podcast up. I've been doing I do a daily stream in the morning. Well, it's kind of noonish now. Called the Astrolabe. You can get that on YouTube and on Twitter /X. You can follow me at Real King Pilled, and then the King Pilled Discord is a happen. Excuse me, it's a happening place. So kingpilled.com, you can go join. Jason is in there. A bunch of people I've seen in the chat are all loyal members of the King Pilled Discord. We've got a great community of people that we have a lot of fun. So if you'd like to be a part of that, we're building things together. It's a great resource if you want to learn things like, hey, I've got really bad heartburn, as Taylor Brown did the other day. He said, man, I've got some really bad heartburn. Do you have a solution for that? And someone said, yes, take a spoonful of borax. And many of us learned that borax is actually a big a testosterone enhancer. So join the Discord, kingpill.com, and you too can learn that you need to eat laundry detergent. That first one is free. The rest of them you have to pay to get access to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the tease. It's just the tip. Last thoughts on Peter Thiel, friend or fed. You want to cast your vote? Anyone in the comments or in the chat can cast their votes right now. I'm on the friend side, as I've said before. I think for pretty obvious reasons. I think all directions are pointing to friend, at least at the moment. And hey, I'll take it. I'll take a bit of friend, as I will take the Thiel bucks. Peter, if you're listening, I'll hang out in Miami. I don't wear shorts though. Just this.
He hates the beach. Him saying he'll hang out in Miami is a big thing. Like, he's willing to sacrifice.
You have no idea.
I very much, obviously, on the friend side, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for the man, and I think that he is I think he's a very complicated figure. I think he's very tormented. I see him as in sort of a similar way on that front that I do Jordan Peterson. That I think that they're very tormented, and they are very self-conscious, very aware of that. Very serious, very sincere people. I think that Jordan Peterson is I don't want to by comparing them. I don't want to say I necessarily would put them in the same bucket on this front. I think that I would put Jordan Peterson much more to the Fed side, but I think Thiel is probably one of the clearest friend votes that I could give on a friend or Fed.
Strom Thurman asked me, "Do I swim in pants?" Well, I don't swim, and I don't go to the beach because I hate the beach. What are you not getting? Like, what do you think? Do you think I don't go to the beach and but I'm really into pools? Like,
he swims in his bathtub with pants on.
The hell's wrong with you? It's obviously your problem, not mine. It's yours. Thank you, folks. Always a pleasure. Matt, stick around. We're going to play a little bit of an outro. I'm, everyone who's watching this or who saw the intro, I love that hour-long. What's it called? Like Peter.
It was. I can't remember
somewhere. Yeah. Anyways, this thing I'm about to play. Thank you, folks. Again, appreciate each and every one of you, and we will see you again very, very soon.
There's several different things I want to say. There's several different things one could say. It is